Folks, welcome into That Betting Show for April 26, 2019. It is Friday, and it's your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. Draft Day 1 wraps up, Teddy. To some, the world is crumbling. To others, they've built dynasties. Keep in mind, most teams only made one pick, and some teams didn't even make a pick at all. But I think one of the worst-kept secrets in the room, Teddy, was Murray going number 1 overall as expected, Nick Bosa number 2, Queen Williams number 3, and then the Raiders at number 4 started to go a little bit off the rails. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was lengthy, Teddy, last night.
Yeah, it sure was. Honestly, the coverage, I mean, did you watch any of it? It was brutal. It was really brutal. I tried. You know, I had a big play on the Nuggets, and when they were getting blown out in the fourth, I'm like, I got to switch over. I'll get the volume on the other one. I couldn't watch it. Didn't last. Couldn't last through 2 picks. But for the draft proc, certainly, as you mentioned, the top 3, no surprises. After that, nothing but surprises. Maybe Miami's the only team that picked the guy they were supposed to after the top 3 picks. And when you're talking about a couple of big shockers right off the bat, certainly Farrell, a guy who was supposed to be drafted in the 20s. And Oakland's like, no, we want him here. We don't want him with the second first-round pick. We'll take him with this one. And then, of course, the Giants going with Daniel Jones and letting Dwayne Haskins drop all the way to Washington at number 15. Those 2 QBs, I understand Kyler Murray's number 1, but now Jones and Haskins become Manning and Leaf. You know, it's like who's going to have the career and who isn't. And we'll see if the Redskins or the Giants made out better with that deal. Personally, you know, I watched a lot of Duke football, and at no point did I look at Daniel Jones and say, yeah, this guy's the next Eli Manning. So maybe Giants saw something that I didn't. But with all of these picks, and with every one of them, this guy can't miss. He can't. Guess what? They're all coin flips. Every one of them. Even number 1 overall, the can't miss prospect. Even Ed Oliver. Oh, my God, how did he drop to 9? They're all coin flips. And that's why this is not an exact science. And that's why you don't grade your team's draft after the very first day.
No, it's always interesting, Teddy, too, because you take a look and you see all the coverage from the NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, and they're talking about the draft with their pundits for over a year. But there's 32 NFL teams with front office ownership, GMs, and head coaches that make their own individual board. So I almost think it's kind of funny when some of these teams like players more than the other, but all we see are the same people beat in left and right. Here's your number 1 tackle. Here's your number 2 tackle. Here's your number 1 quarterback. And it's funny when it comes up when the Giants pick the guy that they wanted at the spot at 6. Everybody's up in arms. But we do have to keep it, a little bit level-headed here, because a lot of the times, Teddy, the same thing if you can equate it to playing poker, if you have pocket aces, is it smart to go all in on that first, hand that comes around the table, or do you draw people in and see the flop and let other people buyers in so it's a bigger pot out there? The one interesting thing is day 2, there's a lot of really good players left out there. And let's not forget, a couple years ago, the NFL draft, you were having, picks 1, 2, and 3 on day 1. Teams get a chance to regroup overnight. Trades are going to go down, and it certainly sets up an interesting day 2. But the one thing I do want to talk about, Teddy, is it seems like we always get big news in the NFL draft seemingly on draft night. Tyreek Hill in hot water again when a tape comes out that says, hey, the child abuse case that was cleared, now it looks like there's going to be murky water. The Chiefs don't want to comment on it. But you're talking about a team, Teddy, that loses already a Pro Bowl running back and now looks like their top wide receiver. That hurts.
It hurts a lot. And honestly, with the audio tape that came out, I don't know what the Chiefs can do in this spot. Last year they were in a nasty situation and they suspended Kareem Hunt and he never played another down with the Chiefs. Now it's Tyreek Hill in not the exact same spot, but a PR issue for Kansas City, and a PR issue that I think they're going to solve by cutting him the same way they did cut Kareem Hunt. This is a bad news situation for the Chiefs. For bettors, however, we should talk about some of these props. It's really a bad news situation for the Chiefs, but under 3.5 QBs taken in the first round, that cashes. Plus money price there. Kyler Murray opened minus 140, closed as high as 2,500. Books did not do well on that prop. We saw Dwayne Haskins going under or over 6.5 at his draft choice, even over 13.5 at the Westgate. Number of Alabama players in the first round, over 2.5. Quinn Williams, Jonah Williams, and Josh Jacobs. SEC players under 11.5 in the first round, only 9 chosen. Defensive players in the first round, minus 2.5 against offensive players. 18-14 margin, more defenders than offensive players in that first round. So a lot of fun with the draft props. Hopefully you cashed a few of them and didn't get burned.
Yeah, it should be a little bit quicker tonight with the NFL draft pick-wise. It always makes me laugh, Teddy, because you have national anthems, you have introductions, and then the full 10 minutes taken from the Arizona Cardinals to make their pick. So by the time you actually got to pick off the board, you're like 25 minutes already into the draft. Should be interesting to keep in mind tonight. And also, a little bit more on that Kansas City tidbit, Teddy. They are having a press conference to welcome Frank Clark in as their defensive end from Seattle. That should get interesting here with some of the waves coming from Tyreek Hill. We'll keep an eye on that. But there was an NBA basketball game last night, and the Spurs force a Game 7 with a Thursday win. Spurs close -3 with a total of 209, end up winning 120-103, setting up Game 7 in Denver Saturday, 8 p.m., Teddy.
Yeah, this was a disappointing one for me, but I'll give San Antonio credit. Look, just about every key Spur had a huge game. All 5 starters shot not 50%, better than 50% from the floor. So I was thinking that Denver had San Antonio figured out defensively. That was not the case last night. And of course, off the bench, the Spurs' depth was a big problem for the Nuggets last night. That 22-4 run to start the fourth quarter was the absolute difference. I was impressed with the way that Denver bounced back. San Antonio shot 67% in the first quarter. They were down 10, and the Nuggets were still right in the ballgame despite that hot shooting. But Nuggets went on one run early. They went on another one late. The late run, too much for Denver to overcome.
Yeah, Jokic, 43 points last night. If you would have told me coming into that game he's going to have that much of a big game, you might would have thought they would have stemmed the tide, but they haven't. But at Game 7, the NBA is probably happy, going to get a little bit more viewership. And just a little bit later in the show, I know there's only one NBA game tonight, Teddy. We're going to flip it over and preview some of those big action games on Saturday as well. But let's hit a little bit of Major League Baseball here. Phillies bats go silent in the night in Philadelphia. Caleb Smith tunes them out, 6 innings, 1 earned run. Aaron Nola had a nice bounce-back start there, Teddy, going 6 2/3, only down 1 earned run. But the key came, Starlin Castro in the top of the 10th inning, a 2-out, 2-run blast, 3-1. You got to beat the Marlins. Come on, Phillies. Wake up. But then, as I said again, they're in the midst of that 17-day stretch with 17 games, no days off. It looks like they're just waiting, Teddy, to get that day off. But not a good look. -210, dropping 1 to the Marlins.
No, and look, I mean, they were coming off a big emotional series in New York at Citi Field, and they came out, they were flat as a pancake yesterday. And look, we talked about it a little bit, with Caleb Smith, and this is a guy who the markets bet on Smith in several of his previous starts. And then yesterday, the money came on Philly because, the betting market, the markets were, the odds makers were expecting money to come for Miami. Then it didn't. And lo and behold, Smith with his 5th consecutive strong effort. We're going to see a fair bit of attention being paid to Caleb Smith moving forward when he's on the hill for Miami. If you want to bet his games, bet him early, not later.
Yeah, sign of a good pitcher, too, Teddy. Struggled in the first inning. He ended up throwing 33 pitches, but then settles down. He gets through 6 to try to help out that bullpen. Nice win by the Marlins. We'll see if it comes back or even they can get the game in rainy Philadelphia today. Role reversal out west, Teddy, with the Yankees and the Angels. Yankees blow a 4-0 lead from the previous night, getting a 5-0 lead and going ahead. Interesting one last night. The Yankees closed at -113 with a total of 8. And it seems like, Teddy, we had the same conversation yesterday. The banged-up Yankees lineup, every single game, it seems like these numbers are hitting over the total, despite who's even in the lineup.
Yeah, they're still scoring runs, and they're still scoring runs in bunches. And, again, last night, it wasn't the offense that let them down, certainly not in L.A., it was the middle relief, and we've seen that a couple of times from the Bronx Bombers this season where the middle relief has had a fair few cracks. That's a concern for the Yankees, but you know what a team like New York's going to do. They're just going to find a middle reliever somewhere in the betting marketplace and buy him and bring him to New York. But for right now, that's something of an issue. That being said, that lineup continues to sizzle, even despite the fact they're missing, their 8 best players. I mean, it's insane, the injuries that have plowed through that Yankees lineup already.
Yeah, exactly. Yankees losing legitimate, AL MVP candidates. When you look at the Phillies, losing Gene Segura and the entire lineup breaks down. It's amazing when you take a look at it. Overnight line movers, Teddy, SBRodds.com, the best place in the market to check those overnight line movements. And up to the minute, we'll take a look at some Major League Baseball action. Marlins getting a little bit of movement Friday. Now, Teddy, they were, opened up at 165 down to 155, but it sort of corrected itself a little bit here with Uranian Eichhoff on the mound. If we take a look at SBRodds.com, Pinnacle showing a -173, +159 split. BetOnline.ag, -166, +156 split tonight in Philadelphia. Looking to bounce back. Philadelphia, though, another heavy favorite, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, this has come down. It's not so much the starting pitching matchup has something to do with it. The markets tend to like Eichhoff. They've shown a little bit of support for Urania as well. But the broader picture here is how good is Philadelphia? They're a 500 team right now. They're playing like a 500 team right now. This is not the type of team that you want to be laying $1.80 or $1.70 or whatever with. I don't want to lay a big chalk price with the Phillies tonight. I don't think you do, Donnie. And I know the markets are not excited about the Phillies in this big chalk price range. That's why we've seen at least some early money come in on the Marlins.
Big line drop, Teddy, in Cleveland and Houston tonight. Opened around 150, now sitting around 115, 120, depending on where you're checking around at SBRodds.com. Indians and Astros tonight, total of 8.5. Kluber versus McHugh. But it's always interesting to me, Teddy, when you see a line open up at that range and take that huge drop in the morning, money coming in here on Kluber.
Yeah, and this was, again, this wasn't right off the opener. This money's been steady for the last, 18 hours or so since the lines came out. And it's been nothing but Indians money. Three factors behind it. One, the Indians showed yesterday they got no business being a $1.40, $1.50 dog to anybody, winning that game. Secondly, Kluber, who the markets were very worried about early in the season. Well, he's coming off his best start of the season. He gave up 4 runs, but only 7 base runners, went 7 full innings, struck out 8 batters. The market's saying Kluber is back. And of course, Francisco Lindor got off the DL, and lo and behold, last night, the impactful game. We'll leave it at that. But the fact that he's producing again certainly adds to that Indians momentum and adds to the flow of Indians money that's come in early betting action on Friday.
Reds and Cardinals total dropping early on Friday offshore at Chris, opened up at 9. A total of 9. Minus 120 is dropped to 8. Reds looking at the favorite there, minus 144. DeSclafani and Michaelis on the mound tonight. We'll see what takes place, but that's always interesting when you get that run line drop, especially two teams that theoretically should be able to hit the baseball.
Sure, and St. Louis their bats are hot right now. So Again, the markets tend to discount lineups and tend to focus on starting pitching. And certainly there's a lot of love for DeSclafani. He's a guy who has a lot of potential. And, of course, Miklos coming off his best start of the season as well. 8 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits against the Mets last time out, 2 walks and 4 strikeouts. His quote, it feels nice to know what the 8th inning looks like in 2019. The market's expecting a strong effort from the Cardinals starter this evening.
Watch what you bet here on That Betting Show. One last stand for the Clippers on Friday night in L.A. Teddy, got one L.A. team trying to send a contingent out west to hire Monty Williams when the other one is actually trying to win playoff games here. Clippers getting 9.5, total of 233. Moneyline split minus 600 plus 447. 10 p.m. tonight from the Staples Center. The Warriors, as we said again, Teddy, been money burners all year long. 37-49 against the spread on the season. 33-46 against the spread as a favorite. The Clippers, in turn, 48-38 against the number on the season, but only 19-24 against the line as a dog. Can they force Game 7, Teddy, or they can put to sleep tonight?
Well, I saw a look-ahead line on the Warriors versus the Rockets. Golden State minus 300 for the series. Houston plus 240. So the fact there are look-ahead lines on that, and no look-ahead line for the Clippers against the Rockets tells you what the markets are expecting. But that's exactly what the markets expected 2 nights ago. And lo and behold, what happened? Clip shot lights out. It was not a strong defensive effort from Golden State at all. But, I mean, that's what the Clips are capable of doing. Gallinari had a huge contest, after shooting 7 of 33 in games 3 and 4. Doc Rivers, I think he'll be even better in game 6. I think now he knows where he can score from. Steph Curry talking about the Clips. They have talent all over the floor. They got guys that can knock down shots in their bench. It's been talked about all year. With what Montrell and Lou bring. We have to take those away the best we can. All that being said, we know what happened the last time that the Clippers beat the Warriors. Golden State came and laid a smackdown on that team. That game was over in the first quarter. Quote from Steph Curry, not what we're used to, but where there's no panic at all. Our message to each other going into game 6 is, would have loved to come in and won 4 straight or close it out Wednesday. Doesn't change what the goal is. The goal is to win 4 games, move on to the next series, and start it all over again. I'm not in love with laying this price with Golden State tonight. And, I'm not convinced that the Clips are going to be able to hit shot. Everybody was hitting. Everybody the other night. I'm not convinced the Clips are going to go have that level of offensive execution this evening. But no point spread bargains with the Warriors in this one. Lean towards the under for this better.
Yeah, it seemed like the Warriors much more focused on the road than at home. We'll see what happens tonight. And Teddy and I aren't on the air on Saturday or Sunday, but we're going to get you fired up here. The Eastern Conference Round 2 starts Saturday. Excited for both of these matchups. Sixers and Raptors. Raptors favored by 6, total of 222.5. Moneyline split of plus 215, minus 255. It's going to take place tomorrow night, but the Sixers last year, Round 2 versus the Celtics, were embarrassed. Now trying to get over that hump with Brett Brown. And still sort of a referendum here, Teddy, in Philadelphia on Brett Brown, whether or not he can coach this team up and get them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Not going to be easy against the Raptors. If we take a look at the Sixers, Teddy, 42-45 against the number in all line games. The Raptors, however, 41-44 against the number on the season. Should be a good one. And hey, look, we know round 1, game 1 for the Toronto Raptors. Sixers are hoping that sort of spills over to game 1 in the second round where they can maybe steal one here.
Yeah, Toronto's problems in game 1 are not unique to the first round of the playoffs this year. They were in full display last year, the year before that. I mean, the Raptors, what are they, like 2-13 in game 1s? It's really an ugly track record. And I know it's a new coach with Nick Nurse. I know it's a new star in a couple of new stars, Kawhi Leonard, and all of a sudden, Siakam is becoming a star right before our eyes. But it's a team that's with Lowry at the point. Remember, Lowry didn't hit a shot in game 1 of the first round. A series they dominated. They still didn't win game 1. The markets are saying we don't care about the game 1 problem. In fact, the money has come for Toronto. It's trickling. It's not pouring. But no question, the wise guys look at this Raptor team and they say, we want the depth, because that's the biggest difference. We know that Philly has incredible star power, the big 4 for the Sixers. What they don't have is the type of quality depth. The Raptors go 11, 12 deep, and they were able to use all the 11 or 12 of those guys consistently during the regular season. And Nurse wasn't shy about using them in the first round against Orlando either. So, you ask me who are the most important players in this series for Philadelphia? What's Marjanovic going to do? What's Boban? Is he going to be capable of doing anything? Is McConnell going to be able to distribute off the bench? Can Mike Scott and James Ennis hit threes? The Sixers bench, in my mind, is as important as any unit in this series. And if Philly gets their bench to produce, they're live to win. Certainly from a game 1 standpoint, I won't lay with Toronto. I could learn that lesson more than once. It'd be sick. And it's not one of those situations where I lost that bet. I'm not doing it again. I'm never betting that team again. No, I don't trust Kyle Lowry in game 1s. So it'd be Sixers or pass for me.
And also, Teddy, when you take a look at the Philadelphia 76ers, let's hope that Joel Embiid is going to be around for all 7 games if needed as well. Always interesting, but they get it underway tomorrow. But there also is a game 7, the second part of a doubleheader tomorrow. The Spurs and the Nuggets in elevation, as we like to say, Teddy. Nuggets favored by 5.5, total of 209. Moneyline split plus 195, minus 245. Spurs 46-40 against the number on the season, and the Nuggets 45-43 against the number. I love game 7s. It should be a lot of fun to watch. We'll see who advances and moves on to round 2 in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and I mean the NBA 6 of the 8 series ended in 5 games or less. So, and we have the Clips Warriors. Look, if the Clips do great, they go back for game 7. They're not beating the Warriors in 7 games. This has been the only legitimately competitive series. And I'm going to give San Antonio a boatload of credit. We talk about adjustments that coaches made from one game to the next and one game to the next. And the Nuggets look to have that Spurs offense figured out. And San Antonio didn't get any good looks or many good looks in game 4. They didn't get many good looks in game 5. Derek White was contained. And lo and behold, Pop works his magic. And not 1, not 2. Every Spurs starter shoots 50% from the floor. Or better than 50% from the floor in game 4. The bench steps up and plays well. And it's not like Denver didn't hit shots. We saw, the Joker go nuts in that ball game. But San Antonio, with everybody clicking, was certainly the better team last night. Does any of that carry over? Denver was clearly the better team on Wednesday, and they had their guys clicking. Now it's been San Antonio with the full team effort. I worry about the Spurs being able to do that on the road in game 7. I really do. And I'll give them credit if they get there, but there's a reason that the chalk tends to win at home in game 7s in the NBA. I do think it is a Denver spot.
And as we like to say, Teddy, you better shop around. Always check out SBRodds.com because there are 6s now showing up on the board for that Nuggets and Spurs tilt. But off the mic segment today, fans get a little bit overzealous here, Teddy. Don't worry about your team after round one in the draft where you might have picked one player. Depth, everything gets built. Super Bowl contenders, Teddy, are not built on day one. They're built on day 2 and day 3. But also keep in mind on Monday, when we get that whole big feel of the draft, Teddy, all the rounds completed, me and you will be able to give out some grades here that were sure to go wrong over the next couple years, but it's still fun to watch. But again, just a PSA out there, Teddy, don't get overzealous. You drafted Daniel Jones, Giants. Hey, maybe he turns out to be the next Peyton Manning. You don't know, but it hurts right now to some people, Teddy.
Sure. And I mean, look, when it comes to how good your team's going to be 5 years from now, the draft matters a ton. No matter how good your team's going to be next year, free agency matters more than the draft. Absolutely. No question. Not even close. So, your franchise builders, yeah. And you're talking about how do you win championships? You know, how do the Seahawks become contenders? Great draft choices, day 2, day 3, multiple years. Lo and behold, you have a deep and talented roster. Giants, not so much. But again, and it's so easy to give draft grades. Look, I'll give any team a draft grade you want. All right, F, D, B, A. I see these guys giving out grades 2 seconds after the picks are made. It's silliness, people. Don't freak out about the NFL draft. It matters, but its predictability, slim at best.
The only grade you need here, Teddy, on that betting show is an A for effort for both Teddy and I. Thank you for tuning in on April 26, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Teddy, we are going to give those draft grades on Monday. We are going to cover what happened over the weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Cash those tickets. He's Teddy Savransky. Once again, give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. It was That Betting Show. Have a great weekend, folks, and we'll check you out on Monday.